This past weekend marked the 79th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp, where more than 1 million people, the majority Jewish, were exterminated by Nazi Germany. By the end of the Second World War, 6 million Jews had been killed. During that period of mass murder, many survivors were able to escape with the help of diplomats and private citizens. One of those countries was Türkiye, which helped tens of thousands of Jewish professors, scholars, and ordinary civilians. Turkish diplomats played an instrumental role in helping thousands flee the Holocaust by granting them Turkish passports and citizenship. And that support for Jews escaping oppression in Europe dates back hundreds of years. In the late 15th century, Sultan Bayezid II invited thousands of Iberian Jews who were fleeing the Spanish Inquisition to settle in Ottoman lands. Today, Turkey's Jewish community numbers around 20,000. And for more, joining me now from Istanbul is Vehbi Baysan. He is a historian and an associate professor at İbn Haldun University. Vehbi, welcome and thanks for joining me. So could you walk us through how Turkey was able to help tens of thousands of Jews fleeing the Holocaust?
Well, actually, that's between 1941 to 1944. The Jews running for their lives, fleeing to other countries, were helped by a group of diplomats, especially in Paris. The Turkish embassy there actually issued documents, perhaps hundreds and even maybe thousands of Jews, telling the authorities that they're actually Turkish citizens and they're willing to go back to their own country. And in doing so, let's remember, one is the crucial issue, saving them from near-death situation. And number two, of course, is that these diplomats were risking their own lives by doing that. And they took the risk because they believed it was worth.
So we can say it was not an easy job. And what sort of challenges did they face during those times?
Well, let's imagine that these fake documents issued in these embassies, and they know by the embassy, by the diplomats, would probably jeopardize and endanger their own personal lives. But they took the risk, as I said. Of course, it would be detectable in a sense that the authorities were determined to send him to the gas chambers. And therefore, they were looking for any evidence to prove that the person is actually Jewish, and so they could be subject to Holocaust. We know what happened there. Therefore, for the Turkish diplomats, it was an easy task. But as I said again, and let me repeat, they thought it was worth and saving these many lives, men, women, and children.
So this type of help is nothing new. Jews had also taken refuge in the Ottoman Empire during the Spanish Inquisition. So talk to us about that period and what really had happened.
We know that subjected to Inquisition in Spain and later in Portugal. And historically we know, and let's also worth mentioning here is that the Turkish Jewish community, or the Jewish community living in this in the soil in Turkey, celebrating or commemorating every year with no exception. So therefore, in 1497, the Ottoman Sultan sent its marine forces to Spain, and basically, as much as possible, they allowed the Jews to come on board, and they will be taken to Ottoman territories, and they were given the land, and basically they were accepted as if like any other subjects of Ottoman Empire.
So how was it received by ordinary Ottomans back then?
Well, it's an interesting question because it goes all the way back to the early Islamic era. Judaism is a monotheist religion, and Muslims are not anti-Semites by all means because the references in Quran quite positive towards Jews. So therefore, they were celebrated when they were settled, and we know the chronicles reporting to us, Vakanuvis we call them, and their court historians reporting that actually in many places some Turkish households helped settling them in their towns and villages.
So what kind of roles did the Jewish community play during the Ottoman times?
Well, they were treated equal. This is here what I mean. The Ottoman Empire had the millet system. Let's remember that they were one of the communities, Jews, along with Christians, treated equally there among as their non-Muslim status. And many of them took positions in the government, especially in the economic advisory positions, and they certainly involved in Turkish trade and business, developing it further. Even I can say that where I'm living, just opposite, we have a synagogue. This was helped by the community to build it, and until 1960s, 70s, it was up and running. So the Turkish community here, as again, I said that did not distinguish them because they're coming from Spain or Portugal, but instead they were like equal part of non-Muslim communities in the millet system. And up until the collapse of Ottoman Empire, they were very much in certain positions.
So you said they were treated equally, but where did they mostly position themselves within the empire?
But let me underline, they were equal among the non-Muslim communities. So I think this is historic because we have the Muslim and non-Muslim differentiation. They were, we know that in Sultan Süleyman had many advising positions for them, especially around in Eminönü. It was an international port then. And they had many Jewish, international traders, and they were actually very much employed there. But many of them had their own businesses up and running, especially in the Grand Bazaar.
So in the years following the proclamation of the Turkish Republic, Jewish academics were deeply engaged with the Turkish education system. What kind of contributions they have made to the young republic?
No doubt significant contributions, especially to the higher education, because as of 1931, the Jewish prominent academics escaping from the fascism and its, in a way, assault towards Jews, they were welcomed in Istanbul, and many departments of Istanbul University were established or founded by them, especially Oriental Studies, and I'm proudly one of the graduates of it, the Middle Eastern, Arabic and Persian Studies. And many of them remained even well after the Second World War II, and they made their life here. Many of them married the locals, and even many of them buried in Istanbul. So they choose Istanbul as their own home.
All right, Vehbi, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.